Almost every major breakthrough in our life and business started with a decision that made absolutely no sense on paper. It seemed completely illogical. Whether that was me leaving a corporate career with Caterpillar that seemed like a dream job, starting our photography business, pivoting completely to brands, moving across the country a handful of times, you name it, even this podcast. None of them made sense at first, and all of them were absolutely terrifying decisions to make. But every single one of them required the same common ingredient. And if you ask us, that single ingredient was the key to our success and has been the key to our success all along. So on today's podcast, we're going to jump into this secret ingredient that we know unlocked the path to success for us and exactly how you can do the same. So today's episode is going to be a fun one because we want to talk to you about our origin story a little bit, take you a little bit on our journey, our business journey of who are Erica and John? How did we get to where we are today anyway? But I think it's really important to say this isn't just, hey, come along for story time with Erica and John today. This really applies to you in a big way because just like we talked about a second ago, there's a common theme throughout our story that, if you ask us, really boils down to our secret to success and why we've been able to do the things we've been able to do along the way.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people typically in life or in business find themselves waiting for certainty, waiting till they feel ready, waiting till they feel like I've got the open door. This all makes sense. I see all the pieces laid out before me and I can just like walk through and know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, but I think the antithesis to that and the thing that works against all of that is the truth for us, which was every major breakthrough came from initial steps of really uncomfortable obedience and big leaps of faith in order to see the results that we saw. And so I think one of the big clear messages today that you're going to see and hopefully be able to apply in your own business, in your own life journey, is that oftentimes while we wait for that clarity, we wait for that certainty, the real truth is the clarity comes after we take the first step. The clarity comes with movement. It comes with action. And like we said, when we look back on our own life, almost every defining moment, it started with a big leap. So let's take you back to Erica and John, 2016. Mm-hmm. We're living in Washington State at the time. And I know some of you listening are like, Washington? I thought you guys were from Arizona. Yeah, we are. We made a pit stop in Washington for a couple of years real quick. So we're in Washington. I've got a corporate job with Caterpillar. On paper, things are really, really good. I mean, I'm mid-20s. Working for Caterpillar, selling tractors, making well into six figures. Like on paper, everything's like picture perfect story. We've got a house, we've got kids. I mean, what more could you want, right?
Yeah, it's like the all-American dream, right? It's like you get married, you start a family, you get a job, you get a company vehicle, you get a company phone. I don't know, like match retirement or something like that they were doing. They were giving bonus checks. It's like, dang, you had bonus checks coming in pretty much every single month. It just felt like, cool, we made it. Like, this is what you do, right? These are just like the steps you take. And now we're living out the dream.
Yeah. So we said the dream. But the reality was, it was actually really miserable.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a dream at all.
It didn't feel like a dream one bit. I mean, the truth was, after being gone for 12 hours a day, I'd come home excited to see you and the kids, sit down to dinner that you had prepared. And I'm like, yes, I'm home. This is my people. This is my safe space. And then inevitably, the phone would always ring from the same handful of clients every single time the second we sat down to dinner.
One of the names is coming to the tip of my tongue, and I will refrain from saying it because the poor guy, it was not intentional. But every night, good old, I'll say his initials, RS. He would ring your phone and it would just like totally interrupt the flow of what we were like settling into, the thing we wanted the most, like us and family time, like just time to literally just be together. But the dream that we thought we were living in, it was like, this is interrupting everything we want. Like it felt like something wasn't right. Like there was just that tick inside of us, like, there's got to be more to this. Like, this doesn't feel like we want to stay pursuing this.
Yeah, I think the trick in it was on paper, everything was picture perfect.
Mhm.
Wow, you're exceeding what's expected of you at this
Yeah.
stage of life. You guys are doing it. You're killing it. You're living the American dream. The reality is, we felt empty.
Mhm.
We felt unfulfilled. Every day I'd leave for work, I just wanted to be home with you and the kids.
Mhm.
And we couldn't ignore that. And so we got to a spot where I don't think you ever saw us getting to ever. I'll say this much. My big dream at the time was maybe I'll just quit working for Kat
Mhm.
and I'll start a landscaping company because I know I can cut some lawns and trim some bushes. Like, I can figure that out.
Yeah.
That felt like a safe, scary choice
Mhm.
to make. And then you approached me. You had a different idea.
I can picture exactly where I was sitting in our living room when I was scrolling Instagram, and I was like, I've had this hobby, but the hobby was starting to pick up and that intimidated me. And so I was like, I'm going to put this photography hobby to the side. But then when you got finally miserable, I was scrolling Instagram and I saw Amy and Jordan doing an in-person photography workshop. And there was just like this thing that I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Like, John sells tractors and he wears boots and he wears like, steel-toed boots to head to work. Like, he doesn't know the first thing about a camera. Still to this day, can't take an iPhone photo.
Nah, can't do it to save my life.
Spoiler alert, John cannot take an iPhone photo. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. But there was just something seeing what I saw them doing together that I was like, wait, they're just teaching photography, but just like what they were painting, I'm like, we should do that. Like, I've already been doing this. This would make so much sense if John would just pick up a camera and do it with me. And so I remember I sent you a text and I like interrupted you at work because I'm like, what if you pick up a camera and we do photography together? I see this awesome couple, don't know who they are, but we could fly to Arizona and we could learn from them. And I remember just being like, I'm going to throw this out there. It's going to get shot down so fast, but hey, what's the worst thing he can do? Say, nah, that doesn't sound good. In your response, I was like, oh my gosh, you literally must be miserable at work, because his question was, how much does it cost? And I'm like, so you're saying there's a chance.
You're telling me there's a
You're
chance.
telling me there's a chance because you want to know how much it costs. This isn't like a heck no, you'll never get me to do that. And I remember I could probably scroll to find the DM from Jordan where I was like, how much does this cost? Like, what is a ticket price? And then I sent the total and you didn't love it, but you didn't say no.
Didn't say no. That's right.
And
Didn't say no. And that was really a huge turning point for us because we decided, okay, we're going to learn how to do this. We're going to learn how to do this together. We decided, let's start on the same page by taking their in-person training.
Yeah, a lot of people might think, like, why didn't Erica just teach you? Like, why didn't she just show you the ropes? I was really, really focused on both of us having like a same starting point where he could understand what I was saying. I could understand like somebody else teaching you and like hearing that and just having such like a solid, smooth foundation that was the same and not something I would have to try to catch you up to speed on. And looking back, like, I mean, it did so much for us. And it wasn't even the camera functions. I mean, what Amy and Jordan laid for the foundation for us in our business, we would not be where we're at today if it weren't for
Hands
doing
down.
that. So
thanks, Amy and Jordan.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys. Love you guys.
We love you guys.
So we go to this in-person workshop. I learned how to use a camera. We start taking photos, and really quickly we had a lot of photo work. And then the tension built. Okay, like John's having to leave for long lunches a lot from work. What's happening? Are we going to do this thing? Are we not going to do this thing? And it really created a friction because there was a strong tension in that moment of like, there was a strong desire to quit and leave the job that made me miserable. But there was also the comfort and security that job offered, the comfort and security of a steady paycheck, the comfort and security of all the benefits, the comfort and security of it's not all up to me. It's up to some people in an office somewhere making decisions. And I just get to show up, do my work, and get the check. Paired with the desire for time with you and the kids, the desire for freedom, the desire to do our own thing, but all the uncertainty that came along with that. How do we make that work? How do we run a business? What happens if nobody wants us? What happens if, like, there was a laundry list of things working against us wanting to do that. But ultimately we came to a decision. I remember the night we were sitting on the couch and we decided, okay, doing this, mind you, we're in Washington again at the time where it rains all the time. And rescheduled and rescheduled and rescheduled all these shoots because of the rain. And I remember you sat me down, you said, hey, we have to make a decision. Are we really going to do this thing or not? You're miserable at your job. This has started to pick up. It's creating a tension now because it's playing tug of war with our time and attention. Are we going to do this? We came to the conclusion like, yes, we're going to do this. Then the second question was, Okay. Well, it wasn't a question from your standpoint. It
Well,
was a
hang on. I
statement.
think we should pause because scared out of our minds, we said, yes,
Yeah.
we're going to do this. Because I think that would be very easy to just be like, oh, wow, that was so easy for you to. We were scared out of our minds saying we are committing to building a business together and going all in. But we did. We made the commitment, even though we were terrified because we had no idea what any of it looked like.
Yeah, great. We were. I think I was shaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good point.
Yeah.
Did it terrified. But then the next statement, not question, from you was, okay, well, it can't be here. And our roots are in Arizona, so you were like, we need to go back to Arizona to do this. We're not gonna have to reschedule for rain every time we turn around.
And equally just as hard because all of our family at the time was in Washington with us. My parents were there, my sister, and all the nieces and nephews were there. And so it was like, again, we can't be here. So that means we have to leave our family. And we didn't know what that would look like. Spoiler alert, they all ended up back in Arizona with us. It was perfect. But that was also another really hard decision because I'm like, this doesn't make sense. We want our kids to have cousins and, do life together the way that we envisioned it. So that was also, again, just like super hard. But we knew just like deep within us, like this is the right call.
Yeah. So we then knew exactly what we needed to do. And we started saving aggressively. We sold our home in Washington. We moved in with your parents for a little while.
Yep.
Into their basement so that we could keep putting money away. And we ultimately decided we've got to move back to Arizona. And I remember like the circumstances like it was yesterday. It's like we were there in Washington. We'd sold our house on our own without a realtor so we could pocket as much as possible. We had done the photography training together. We had invested in cameras together. We decided we were going to make this a go. We saved up 6 months of income and we decided we're moving back to Arizona with nothing established in Arizona. Like all the business we had, the little bit we did have was in Washington. We said we're going to move to Arizona and we're going to go full out on this thing there, quit the job, go full out on this thing there. And we told each other, we've got 6 months of savings, which means we have 6 months to try and make this work. And I guess if it doesn't work in 6 months, it just wasn't meant to be. Yeah.
We'll go get a job. We'll figure out what that has to look like. But we got 6 months to try because that's what we prepared for. We'll just see what happens. We'll just go from there. And that was in 2017 when we actually moved back to Arizona. And I can see it kind of behind you on the wall around the corner from where you're sitting is our sign. It says 2017, do some of those crazy faith required things. Yeah. And I remember there was an artist on Instagram, still follow her. She's incredible just with her handwriting. But she posted that in 2017. And I'm like, you made this for me. I don't know. I remember sending her a message. I'm like, I need to buy that. I don't know if you know this, but like you made that for me. This is our year to do some extremely crazy faith required things. And I remember buying that and hanging it right above our little makeshift desk that we put into our rental house when we got back to Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah. And that certainly was a year defined by crazy faith required things. And has been ever since.
Yeah,
has been
stopped.
ever since. But I think the interesting thing in that part of our story of like how we even got started building this business is a lot of that required us stepping away from things that were comfortable and not having the answers in the process. Like we definitely didn't feel ready at that point in time.
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel like I'd mastered a camera at that point. I was still trying to figure that thing out when we would go on shoots, and I was leaning on you to carry.
Whisper my camera settings to you.
Yes. Yeah, I was leaning on you to do everything, and I was kind of just there over your shoulder taking second angles and stuff like that. So like camera skills weren't there. Business plan was not in place. We had no business to speak of in Arizona.
Yeah.
What's our projected this and that? Like it didn't exist.
Yeah.
It was just faith and a desire and a willingness to step into what was extremely uncomfortable and see what happened on the other side.
Well, and I think to anybody listening, it'd be like, okay, you didn't have a business plan. You didn't have any business in Arizona going, but you went back and you just started doing. So like, what was it? Like, what did you have? And it's honestly the fact that we stepped forward in such faith. God was so faithful in return to just open up doors.
Yeah.
Any opportunity for anybody who may have known the 2017 version of Erica and John. Anything you saw us doing, whatever family it was, whatever wedding it was, whatever weird random business we were shooting for at the time, because those were sprinkling in too, that was a complete open door from God that we just stepped into because we're like, oh my gosh, this opportunity is coming. This inquiry is here. This person reached out. I guess this is how we just start building. We just start saying yes to any opportunity that we get.
And God bless you to all you people for trusting us in that season. That was a God thing.
I love you.
Yeah, but we definitely didn't feel ready. And I think if we're real honest, to others on the outside, that looked really irresponsible.
My gosh.
Step away from, at that point, like an almost 10-year career with Caterpillar where I'd risen through the ranks really quickly. Financially, we were super comfortable, just doing all the things clicked on the way you're supposed to do life. And we stepped away from it for something unknown. And I remember people specifically saying, there's a lot of, at the time we were wanting to be wedding photographers. There's a lot of wedding photographers out there. Like, how are you guys going to stand out? How are you going to break through? Aren't you nervous? I can't believe you stepped away from this job. I can't believe you're doing this. This seems basically all things saying you guys are flipping irresponsible. Like, what are you doing? You have kids.
Yeah. And how about don't you know that most businesses in their first year of business fail?
Yeah.
Like kind of. You know the heart behind questions and statements, which is just out of care and concern and stuff, but certainly not a whole lot of overwhelming life that was being breathed in by words we were hearing.
Right.
And again, we know there was no ill intention, but in us, we were still it can happen. Yeah. We can totally do this. We've seen other people do it. We want to, and it doesn't make sense, but we're going to just keep moving forward.
Yeah. So you're rarely going to feel ready.
Yeah.
People around you might say it's irresponsible. Mm-hmm. That might be the encouragement that they have to offer you. But ultimately, and this is the point we reached, we knew that staying where we were was more painful than facing the unknown.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And that's why we were willing to take that big leap of faith.
Yeah.
Move back to Arizona and start the business. And so, we start the business. Things are starting to pick up. Things are going good. But we reached another pivotal moment in our story, which is at that time in Arizona, we established ourselves as luxury wedding photographers. We're doing wedding photos. We're doing family photos. Quite frankly, we were doing anything photos.
Yeah.
I mean, if needed a camera pointed in front of it, we were there and we were willing to take deposits.
Yeah.
But we knew as we built that instinctively there was this pull for us towards working with businesses. And we started to see that reflected in the inquiries we were getting. We started to see that reflected in where our income was coming from, even though we weren't marketing ourselves in any way, shape, or form as a brand.
No.
We were luxury wedding photographers. Our logo, I remember specifically, we designed it and we told the designer, we want this to look like a monogram that should be embroidered on a luxury hotel bathrobe. That's how we were presenting ourselves in the market.
Yeah.
But businesses kept coming to us for work. It made no sense. But I remember pretty quickly going, Erica, I think that we need to be done with weddings and families. We need to focus exclusively on brands because this is where the revenue is coming from. You weren't so quick to get to that point.
No. And I remember we were driving back from the Salt River. We had just got done shooting an engagement session, if you remember this. And on the way home, your head was just spinning yeah, but all of these businesses, at the time, we still didn't realize it was brand photography that was coming to us. But you're all these businesses are what are making up the majority of our income. And I'm driving home going, but did you see her ring? Did you see
you were
their
all
emotion?
Up in the emotions.
I'm they loved it. It was so sweet. And I'm we're driving home from an engagement session and you're trying to say, hey, we need to throw in the towels with weddings. And I was just not there. I was so attached to the emotion of what we did with our cameras because I genuinely loved it and just loved celebrating people in that way. So I wasn't in.
It took you a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But then I won't forget, I kind of backed off the throttle a little bit, but kept just dropping hints. And then maybe it was a month later, I remember you were in the shower because that's where all good ideas take place, right?
All
is in the shower.
Good ideas come to me in the shower.
You're in the shower and I'm on the other side of the house and I hear, John! So I came running. I thought something was terribly wrong, but you were in the shower, you were crying, and you're like, this is it. We need to be done with weddings and families. We need to focus only on brands.
Yeah, I remember I couldn't even look up. I just had my head in my hands because I'm ugh, this is so painful. But I just felt that thing again, which I've noticed that thing is just the way God speaks to me when I hear him and just know that he's it's time for another leap. It's just time for another leap of faith into the next thing. And again, I'm I want to know why. I want to know how. I want to know, like, what does that look like? But we didn't have any of those answers. We just knew, and we just felt this pull that, like, this is what's going to be the next level of growth for our business.
Yeah, for sure. And so we ultimately decided to make a cold turkey pivot
Yeah.
into brand photography. Like overnight, we shut off weddings, we shut off families, we launched our new brand photography website, speaking only to businesses and brands. And we, at the snap of a finger, went from luxury wedding and family photographers to brand photographers, Erica and John.
Yeah.
Which meant leaving behind what at that point was our only little bit of comfort we had built for ourselves, because it was not comfortable in any way, shape, or form. But the little bit of comfort we had built for ourselves of like, okay, we got a wedding booked next month, or we got a couple family sessions booked next month. It meant shutting that valve of income and revenue off.
Completely off.
To focus on this new, unproven, okay, we think this is going to work. We've got this feel. We feel called in this direction. And ultimately, it meant we stopped accepting the work that felt safe to step into something that we felt called to, which was a big moment and a big pivot for us.
Yeah.
And I think, the temptation oftentimes when we look at someone else's story is to see where they're at now and figure like that just must be where they started. But hopefully what you hear as we continue walking through this story is like, we never picked up a camera and set out to be brand photographers. And matter of fact, and I tell people this all the time, and this might surprise you for me to say, but like photography is not even the thing for me. It never was about photography. It was always about you and the kids and working with you. And so like for me, yeah, I've grown to the point where I know I'm good at what I do and I really like taking photos, but it never was about that for me. It was always about what we wanted to create. And so, yeah, we never had this on our radar as we set out. Never in a million years did we think, oh, we're going to be brand photographers. But that first year, like, man, did things click.
Yeah.
That was our very first year working only with brands. We went deep into six figures for the very first time. Before that, as wedding photographers, we were like struggling to hit 60K a year.
Yeah.
We went deep into six figures the very first year, and things just really started popping. Like it was like the market was desperate for that. We were willing to step into it, kind of ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And it paid out.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we were willing to do at that step in our journey is we were really willing to just burn the ships, as they say. I forget what the quote is about that.
I forget the quote, but I can see the analogy in my head. It's like you're headed toward this island, like where you're directed, right?
Yeah.
And it's like there's only one vessel to get you there. You got to hop on this boat. It's going to take you there. But that means like all the ones left behind you are, you got to burn them. You can't leave them there to like, stop, wait, hang on, go, turn around. Like I need to go hop back on there because it's like, that's old stuff. That's what got you to this point. But now getting on this one is what's going to take you to that point.
Right.
And that was terrifying. And I do really hope that for those of you that are listening, it's like, that's not scary to just hop from boat to boat. Like we're not saying that like in an easy way. And I think if we had the time to dive into the tears, the nights where it was just like, what are we doing? And is this even going to work? And like, gosh, this is so hard and I'm exhausted. And it just feels like, we don't know what it's going to keep, what's going to look like next. Yeah. It's not that it's easy, but every single time taking that step, taking that leap of faith led us to the next big thing that was just waiting for us inside of our journey. Yeah.
We get asked by students all the time, like that are learning brand photography from us. Can I keep doing my wedding photography and add this in? Can I keep doing families, newborns and add this in? Can I keep doing this and add this in? And the question, of course, or the answer, of course, is yes.
Of course.
Yes, you can. There's nothing telling you you can't. But what I will tell you is on our own journey and in the journey of some of the students we've seen go on to be the most successful, they've burned the boats. They've gone all in. They've made that their primary focus. They've eliminated all backup plans and all fallback plans because something shifts inside of you when you say, we're doing this, we're going all in. It switches on this this drive and this determination that doesn't exist when you have a backup plan.
Well, and it's true because I think we can look back on our own story of like what we shared. We packed up and we left Washington. We're like, we have to go back home to Arizona, which means we were burning all of those things that were bringing in money. We had so many, like we were doing headshots, we were doing real estate, we were doing seniors, we were doing families. It's like we had things that were quote unquote working, but we burned those to get to the next step of what we knew was going to take us further. And that if we would have kept close in that, safety of what we had already known, there's no way we would have gotten to the point of all of the opportunities that ultimately led us to the point of where we're at in our story now of brand photography.
Right.
So it is really cool when you can look back to go like, yeah, just burning those ships and telling yourself there's no other plan. The only plan is forward, and you're going to just develop that grit, determination, focus to see it through.
Yeah, hands down. So that was another big leap of faith for us, turning off the wedding and lifestyle faucet.
Yeah.
And only leaning on the brand photography. But then came COVID.
Dun,
oh man,
dun, dun.
COVID entered the scene. And I think it's crazy that that's like a universal moment in time for everybody now. It's like, I remember where I was. I remember what life was like before COVID and after. We talked in terms for a long time of like pre-COVID, after COVID.
Yep.
A big disruptor. And for us, that was pretty scary. We had, just like a lot of people experienced, all of our business dried up overnight. Like all the brands we were doing business with had to shut their doors.
Yeah. And if it wasn't temporarily, it was permanently. Like some of our clients, they were just like, gosh, we'll never open again, which was heartbreaking, it ultimately affected us. It's like, it wasn't just affecting them, it affected us. It was a trickle effect. And anybody who's listening to this, you know exactly what we're talking about, because I don't really know many photographers unless you were the front porch photographers, like capitalizing on that. It's like it affected everybody.
It affected everybody. Everything canceled overnight. All we had were some retainers that we got to hold on to.
Yeah.
And there was no sign. At first it was like, oh, this will be temporary. And then we realized this is going to take a minute. And we started freaking out. I mean, okay, that business faucet got turned off. There was no way to drum up new business. Everybody was isolating. So there's a lot of financial fear with that. And ultimately we just, hey, we don't mind grinding when we have to.
Yeah. We're not afraid to work hard.
We went up north to your parents and I started cleaning out people's gutters and doing
Painting.
yard work and painting decks and doing whatever we had to do to make ends meet while we kind of reassessed and figured out what's our next step here. What do we do? Because we knew things would come back, but we had no idea how long that was going to take. And we knew we couldn't just sit back and wait.
Right.
And that's when we really came face to face with and could not ignore what I would say really was a calling to teach other people.
Yeah.
I remember you coming and talking to me being like, people are constantly asking us, how are we doing this?
Well, and I think too, because of what 2020 created, there were so many more community calls. And within those, it was like asking questions. How did you? What do you do for this? All these kinds of things. And again, there was that feeling of like, oh my gosh, like, could we actually now use what we've created for, our now brand photography business to help and show other people like what we do? Like, they're asking for it and we're not going anywhere for any work right now. Like, let's do it. Why not take yet another crazy leap of faith to just say, okay, cool, we're going to step into education, and however that looks, like, just help people from all of our experiences and lessons and things that we've learned.
Yeah. So while we had no income coming in, we invested in education to learn how to do that.
Yes.
We believed in ourselves. We put together a framework.
Yeah.
And then I remember having a conversation with one of our mentors, talking about the dreams we had for this, and just having a very level setting conversation that we had very high expectations. And the feedback was like, how big is your email list? And I remember the number. I will never forget the number of people. We had 423 people on the email list. Yeah. And almost all of them were photography clients or family members and friends.
Yeah.
And I remember sharing that number with our mentor, and the feedback was just like, okay. Because I was asking, how much money do we need to spend like on ads to reach this level of a launch?
Yeah, like, this is our goal. What do we need to prepare for? Like,
and it
how
was
do we
like,
need...
the answer was like, it's no. The answer was basically no. Like, you're not going to be able to spend enough money to make sense to see profitability at that scale. And that felt like a huge blow, because at this point, like, we'd gone all in, we'd built our first course, the planning and styling course, and given it everything we had to answer all the questions we were getting at the time. We're finally ready to bring this thing to market. And that was when we thought about, like, how do we do this? And the answer we got was like, ooh, that's going to be tough, guys.
Yeah. And I think this was probably like a week before too. Like, we were like, hey, there's no option but to just move forward with this. And honestly, I think too, we can't overlook that any good coach, mentor should have been honest to say that to us.
Hands down.
Just like we would need to be honest to somebody this day. It's like, hey, the list size matters. So a little side plug, build your list. list size matters. Like, you want to constantly just be nurturing that community that you can have and you can own and you can really keep in your back pocket and real close to you. So we appreciated that feedback, but it was discouraging because we're like, shoot, like it took no effort at all to put everything into the planning and styling course. We're like, this is everything people want from us. And we were so excited to bring it. But then there was like,
took no effort because it came easily, but it took a whole lot of effort.
Exactly. Like, it all flew, it like all flooded in naturally because it was like, cool, we know exactly what people are wanting. It was a whole lot of hard work. And that's why I think there was that discouraging piece, is because it's like, dang, we just put in so much work to put together a course that we really feel like we need to get out there to people to really help them, especially right now when people are struggling and they want to pivot. It's 2020. People want to watch courses and just learn and learn and learn. And so we had two options: move forward, take a leap of faith, full send, or turn back, run back to what was safe. Which at that point, literally nothing, because everything had emptied out and had closed.
We might
overnight.
not have burned the ship, but the world did.
Yeah,
the world
it was
burned
burnt
the
for
ship.
us.
Yeah. So we moved full steam ahead anyway. We launched the planning and styling course. To those of you listening who might be OG planning and styling course members, we love you guys. I can think of a handful who are still doing stuff with us today. It's just such a cool and such an honor and privilege to have them trust in us from day one and still be hanging out with us. But that launch exceeded every single expectation.
Yeah.
I mean, for what we were told was possible with what we had with 423 amazing people on an email list. I remember sitting down the night we closed CART. We were so unsophisticated with this at that point. At midnight, we said the course was coming down, and I stayed up till midnight to flip the switches and turn stuff off.
I am not a night owl, so I went to bed and just said, hey, if you need me, come get me. But I don't know what to do to sit up till midnight, because what am I going to do but just sit here and keep watching.
So you went to bed. I stayed up. I flipped the switches off, and then I recorded you a video.
I still have it.
I was crying.
You were?
Because I could not, I was just overwhelmed with God's goodness and how when we stepped into something that we felt called to, that we felt unqualified for, uneducated enough for, in terms of like how to make all that stuff work.
Clearly unprepared.
Unprepared for, that in his goodness, he made it fruitful.
Yeah.
And I think that's the lesson here in this big leap of faith that we took, stepping into education, is like, don't despise the small beginnings. Because when you feel called to something, it doesn't matter what the externals look like. It doesn't matter what the numbers look like. It doesn't matter how any of those things add up, or even what outside voices tell you the result's going to be. If you know you feel called to something and you step into it, it's going to play out.
Yeah.
It's going to work out.
Yeah. And that's just the thing, is like, our obedience is truly the only thing God cares about ever. The outcome is always in his hands, which we have learned every time we try to keep that outcome real tight, close in our hands. It's just like, oh, shoot, shouldn't do that. So giving him the outcome is always the answer. It has always blown us away, always has led us to just like feeling so humbled by his goodness. But yet again, every part of our story, looking back, taking the leap of faith, stepping in obedience, even when it didn't make sense, it's like, he's come through every single time. Yeah. Every single time.
Every time. Well, at this point in our journey, we started noticing a pattern. And I'd like to say we got a little bit better at noticing this pattern and responding to it. Because the next big moment in our story, we're still living in Arizona. We're out of COVID a couple of years now. We're at a mastermind for ourselves to learn. And one of the presenters gets up and gives a vision exercise. And I will be 100% honest and say I was having none of it. I was really tired. We didn't get into like 2:00 in the morning the night before. I was really tired. I'm like, she's asking me to close my eyes. This is going to be terrible. I'm going to fall asleep. Plus, I don't know who you are. I don't know what kind of woo-woo thing this is going to be. Like, no thanks. But I remember I was so disengaged from what was happening that I can remember crossing my arms, closing my eyes so I wasn't sitting there with my eyes open, seeming awkward. But I was like, man, my chair feels really close to Erica's, and like I should move, but that's going to make noise, and it's really quiet in here, and everybody's got their eyes closed. Like, that's how disconnected I was from this thing. And then all of a sudden, it was like I was transported. This is the best way I can describe it. And I saw myself, but like from an angle up here, like a movie camera following me through life. And I had this really vivid vision. And I remember even as she's walking through this vision exercise, she would give a prompt like, notice the things around you. And I was like, I'm already doing that. That's weird. And it's like, what do things look like? What do things taste like? What do things smell like? And I was like, I'm already picturing that before you said that. This is getting really weird.
Mhm.
And like that was the whole experience for me. And then it got to the end, and the final question that was asked was, what does this future version of yourself that you see need to say to the present version of yourself? And for me, the answer was, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And it shook me. Like, I was messed up. I don't know what she shared on the rest of the time, because I wrote everything down. I wanted to remember every single detail of that vision in my notebook like it happened, because it was I knew it was significant. I just didn't know what the heck for.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe I ate a bad burrito last night on the plane or something. Like, I don't know what this was. And so I remember she got done talking. I got done writing. I looked at you. I said, hey, that vision thing, like, did you, I wasn't even sure how to talk to you about it, because I was like, I feel so weird. I was like, did anything, like, did you have anything take place during that maybe kind of thing? And you're like, yeah.
Well, yeah, because for me, I wasn't so much grumpy like you were. Like, you were super uncomfortable, like, forget it, I'm not going to do this thing. For me, I was like, I feel like I clued into this conversation way too late, that I'm not even really sure where she's at and what she's talking about. So I was like, everyone's eyes are closed. Like, I'm just going to close my eyes and I'm just going to pray because it's early. I'm just going to start my day with praying here in this room. But similarly, I was like, I'm no longer praying. I am active in this vision and this thing and like this movie playing out that I'm kind of just like sitting back and watching, but it's like so very, very real and very just like in my face. I cannot ignore what's happening, and my eyes are closed. Like, normally it's like, let me block something out. I'm going to close my eyes and say like, I can't see it. No, my eyes were closed, and it was just like a movie playing in front of me.
Yeah.
And so similarly, I remember hearing her say, open your eyes and wanted to journal.
Yeah.
You were already doing it. And I was like, crud, I thought you were gonna like X-nay on this and you weren't doing it, but you're over here journaling. I'm like, oh boy, this could get a little bit interesting.
I remember specifically sitting there being so shaken towards the end of the vision exercise, but literally still resisting it so much that I was like, I will not form a tear. Like, I will not let my eyes form a tear, because like there weren't a whole lot of guys in the room either. And I remember I was like, I know there's a photographer in here. I'm not going to be the guy they catch on camera crying.
At the event crying.
Like,
you would be the moneymaker, John. You would be the one to get someone to sign up.
I was 100% not going to be that guy. I was determined. But yeah, I started journaling right away. She got done talking. I have no idea what she shared on, because I was so enthralled in that. And I remember asking you at the end, like, hey, did something happen? You're like, yeah. I said, I wrote it down. You're like, I wrote it down too. I'm like, can we compare notes? And you said, no.
I did.
But let me read yours.
Nope. I closed my book. I said no. And I kept my hands right here on top of it.
Yeah.
This is mine.
But you wanted to read mine.
I did.
So you read mine.
And I mean, that's fitting. Like, you've always been a lot easier to just like give.
I was like, yeah, fine. Here you go.
Yep. So
you read mine. You got up. You walked out of the room.
Yes.
I followed you out of the room going, uh-oh, what did I do? What did I write that she didn't like? And then you saw me over your shoulder and you took off running. So I did what anyone naturally would do. I didn't chase you.
You didn't come after me.
I went back to the room and read your journal. I was like, I got to see what Erica wrote down. This is weird.
I know.
But I didn't know. I had no idea at that point, like, oh, maybe there's something. I was like, she must be ticked about what I wrote. Like, what did she write?
So
what
mad.
was her vision? I walked back in to read your notes to see, oh my gosh, we pretty much both had the same vision.
Mm-hmm.
And that vision, so mind you, our reality at the time is we were living in Arizona. We're surrounded, and love Arizona, love the desert, but you know, it's flipping hot. We're surrounded by other homes in the middle of suburbia. Business was a grind, was a hustle all the time. Kids would come up to the office and I'd kind of like push them out. That's what life looked like. My vision was very different. I could tell I was in a coastal place. I could smell the salt in the air. I could feel the coastal breeze. I was sitting in front of a home. It was a house that was white. I was sitting at a black coffee bistro table with my laptop and my Ray-Bans. Like, this was so detailed. I had my Ray-Bans on. And the kids walked out the front door and I closed the laptop lid and I looked at them and said, what do you guys want to do? And we went for a walk on the beach.
Yeah, there's no beaches in Arizona.
No beaches in Arizona. I was shooing them out of the office in Arizona. So it was like, this is very, very different from our current reality. And, you know, there's a whole podcast episode in this story because we could talk to you for 3 hours about how uniquely appointed the entire move for us from Arizona to Florida was. But ultimately, what we came to the realization of standing outside afterwards, when you finally came back and we talked about it, was we were just shown a vision of us living in Florida.
Yeah. Well, because mine matched, I was on the beach and there were other elements of my vision that just brought so much reality of like, okay, so I'm on a beach and let me tell you, the sand was white. And everything I saw was white sand. And so I'm like, this looks just like these emerald green waters and white sand that we have seen when we've come before to visit Anna and Ryan. And I'm like, shoot, that's scary because the first time we visited, you walked around Barrett Square in Rosemary and you said, I want to live here one day. Yeah. And I was like, that's cute. Like, you know, everyone says that on vacation, you're in vacation state of mind. But when I saw that along with other elements, again, I think we probably should just do an extended podcast at a different time because there's just so many layers of it that it's like, that's its own thing. But I was like, I'm on a beach and I had my arms outstretched to the side and I felt freedom. And that was the thing for me is we didn't quite feel freedom in certain areas because we were hustling. Like we were shooting so often. We were traveling all the time. And while we loved it, we did feel like, oh gosh, like we are just chugging everywhere we turn. We're working so hard, not to mention we had started the education side of our business. And so it didn't feel freeing in the sense that I just had like the time to just like breathe and be and do things that I loved.
Yeah. So we moved on from that. We went back into the mastermind. We learned some stuff. It was cool.
People probably wondered if we were okay because they saw me running across the campus and they saw
and then
John
they saw us talking out on the balcony,
journal.
snotting, crying, just ugly crying all over the place.
It's a great first impression.
Great first impression with this room of people. Yeah, it was awesome. So that night, I'll never forget, they chartered a catamaran to go out into the Gulf. We're standing there, we're having food, we're talking to people and stuff. And as we're coming back into the harbor, I was standing on the front of the boat.
Yeah, and I was sitting with Anna and Ryan. Anna and Ryan, they are two of our absolute best friends, but really more like brother, sister, aunt, and uncle. If you know them, you know them. But I was sitting with them, and we were just sitting and talking. It was dark. We were just like taking in, like, dang, we just got done at United.
Yep.
And I wasn't sure
we were at a photography conference.
Wasn't sure if it was yet Spark, but it was United. And I'm like, this is just incredible. Like, what is life? And it felt so weird because normally like Ryan taps into those conversations, but he kind of just like nudged me like any good brother would do. And he goes, go stand up there with him. Because you were standing up at the bow of the boat.
Yep.
And I was like, like, just want to sit here and talk. But I sat there and I was like, you're right. Like, I should go up and take advantage of this moment. Like, we're headed back to the, Phoenix in a couple days. So I got up there with you.
And Ryan took a picture of that moment, which actually for those of you watching, we'll put up on the screen.
Yeah.
Took a picture of that moment. That's a very special picture to me because in that you walked up, I put my arm around you. We're looking out over, the beautiful Gulf waters, coming back into this marina. And we both were like, what do we do with what happened earlier today?
Yeah.
Like, what do we do with that?
Yeah.
We can't ignore that.
No, it has our attention. We feel shaken, but like, what? Like, we don't have beaches in Arizona. Like, what do we have to do? What does this mean?
And I knew I could force this stuff to happen, but we knew enough at that point. We're like, we don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to force this because this is a big leap we're talking about. And if this is supposed to happen and if this is what God has for us, like, I don't want to be the one figuring out all the logistics and making this thing happen. So we just both agreed in that moment, let's stay open. If this is something God has for us, he'll make it clear. He'll speak to us in a way we can't ignore.
Yeah.
And he'll just order each step. And we went back and sat down. At this point, everybody else is seated. We got the crappy seats that we didn't want.
There was only two seats,
There's
like
only
two
two
spots
seats
on the
left.
boat left that we could sit in. So we just were like, the captain at that point was like, I need everybody to take a seat. So we're like, okay, shoot, moment's over. Hurry up. Let's go sit down.
And so we're coming back into the marina at this point, slow, about ready to get to the dock. And we're having a conversation. I think actually we were separate of each other, weren't we? It was like me and then Anna, Ryan, you, I think, in my mind at least. Anyway, we're having a conversation with them. We're looking like this. And then at the same time, we both look up and we see a boat. And it was like time stopped. Time
It felt like
froze.
everything froze.
All the hairs on my arm and everywhere like stood up. And you and I locked eyes. And we're like, did you see that? Because you think about, what do people name boats, right? Like people name boats Susie's Bad Decision, Margaritaville, 5 o'clock somewhere, reel them in, whatever.
Yeah.
this boat that we both saw at the same exact time, and we could have missed it. I think that's the beautiful thing about this. We could have missed it.
We could have stayed talking.
It was that fast. It was.
Had we not been the last two to take a seat, we could have been sitting at a completely different
sat on the
spot
opposite
on
side
the
of the
boat
boat.
where our backs would have been to it. Or we would have been in a different conversation with somebody else that we had just met, didn't want to, be rude and stop talking. We could have missed it.
But we both
weren't.
looked up at the same time. We saw this boat, and it was called Leap of Faith.
Yeah.
And I still get chills talking about it because it was in that moment we both locked eyes and said, we know exactly what we need to do.
Well, we looked at each other like, he just gave us our sign. Like, it's on the side of a boat. I feel like in our first episode, I should have introed myself like, hi, I'm Erica and I'm a crier, because it's normal and I like to cry. It'll happen a lot. Yeah. And it happens every time we talk about this. And this was 5 years ago. This was in 2021 that we saw that boat. And I'm still determined to drive myself down to Clearwater, Florida, and find that boat and take a picture because, photographers, content creators, we always have our phones out. We're always in the moments, taking the pictures and getting all the content. I froze. Yeah. I feel like my jaw just went. And I just looked at you after looking at the sign, and it was in an arc shape. It was just kind of in a half moon. Leap of Faith.
Yeah. Do you remember the colors?
No.
It was orangey, sunset.
Was it?
I specifically remember.
Okay, you've got that locked in. I can see the shape of it. But if I could, it felt like one of those cartoons where it's you're being held back and you want to grab your phone and give me the
But you
picture.
can't.
You
or
couldn't.
The dream where you can't move and get yourself out of the situation.
That's how it was. Because I just was we were just standing on the bow of the boat saying, what do we do? Our answer, because we've learned from so many years of having to ask ourselves, what do we do? Is just stay open and just see where God leads us. Literally sat down and he led us to the reminder that, hey, it's just time to take another leap of faith.
So at this point, we'd learned that taking these leaps of faith, while scary, it's still scary.
Yeah.
We had grown in our comfort level with it a bit because we'd seen, hey, every time we take one of these big leaps, we see another breakthrough. We see another big growth opportunity. We see something good come of this. And so I remember we went back to the hotel that night. We told Anna and Ryan, guys, this is what happened today. And we're just we're tears, we're everything. And we're running through this with them. We pray with them. We get on a plane. We fly home. We told the kids we're with your parents. We told them at our meeting point, hey, we think we should have some lunch with you guys. Yeah. This is the next day. Yeah. We're we think we should have some lunch with you guys. And so we get lunch and we sat down and we told them right then and there, this is what happened. This is what we saw. This is what God spoke to us. So I just want you to know, I don't know when. I don't know exactly where. I know the area. I don't know exactly where. I don't know how, but I just want you to know we're moving to Florida.
Yep. We were just God's moving us to Florida. And if there's any questions, you're going to have to ask him just like we are because we don't know. We just know that we heard so clearly, saw so plainly, and at this point, we'd be disobeying to say, no, we're not going to go. We're going to keep our feet planted. We're going to stay with what we know. This is what we've built. Keep it clenched. Keep it real tight to us because we can depend on this. We're doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all because yet again, there's nothing in Florida except for Anna and Ryan.
Yeah.
And whatever God has for us because he's made it very clear we got to go.
So we moved quickly this time. We didn't sit around and deliberate.
No.
We knew what it was. We knew what the leap of faith was. And we just started speaking it immediately. We spoke it to Anna and Ryan. We spoke it to your parents. And the pieces just began to fall in place. And I think, that's one thing that I've heard recently, actually at a men's group that impacted me in a huge way is, and if you're a person of faith that's watching or listening, this is a good tool for you to have. Somebody asked hey, have you ever wanted to measure your faith, check in on your faith? If you want a good measurement for what that looks like, look at how long it takes you between when God speaks something to you and when you act. And if you can keep closing that gap, that means your faith is growing. And by this point, for sure, for us, it was
sell it.
Fine, let's go. Let's go.
House.
We trust this. Let's do this. And I think what's important in that is we had no idea how that would all work out. We didn't know the steps. We didn't know the plan. And oftentimes when you're faced with these big moments where you have to take a leap of faith, it doesn't come with full visibility. No. Never, ever has one of these moments come up for us in business. And it was here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, and here's how it all works out.
And
that never happens. But that's what we crave as humans. We want that. But that's just not how it works. again, like we said at the very beginning of this episode, like the action point that you take, that's what breeds clarity. That's what gets you to, oh my gosh, I didn't realize. And it's like that's part of the fun of the journey. I think I've learned through this season of life that like listening to what you feel called to and living on the edge of that and taking these leaps of faith is simultaneously the scariest, most vulnerable, most exciting, most thrilling way to live life ever, hands down.
Yeah, and it's never, like you said, it's never changed. And so I think that's where we can find ourselves just going like, okay, hey, good. When something pops up and we're like, hey, this doesn't make sense. Okay, I think that's what we need to tap into. Yeah. That's kind of like what we look for. We've trained ourselves to look for like, is this our plan? Then that's not what we do, because what our plan is,
our
makes
plans
sense.
usually suck.
Well, yeah, they're just like, they're safe and they're cute and they're boxed in. And honestly, though, they're just, it's not something that is crazy. It makes absolute logical sense. And I think that's by, human nature. Our brains are designed to protect us. And like we think of all the things that we can count on and depend on. But when it doesn't make sense, that's when you and I have learned like, okay, this is what we know. Yep. This is what we have to dive into with both feet.
Yep.
Full in, burn the boats.
Play it all out.
Just go all in.
Yeah. So that brings us to today. That brings us to what we're doing right now with this podcast. And we shared in episode 1 about our journey just getting to this podcast and kind of reframing failure and what that looks like. But I think even at an even deeper level, like coming to launching this podcast and committing to doing this, we're a business. At the end of the day, we're a business.
Yeah.
Businesses make decisions based on what's going to drive revenue. Businesses make decisions on what's going to bring income through the door. They make decisions on ROI. What's the return on my investment? And to be frank and honest, like starting a podcast makes no sense. There's no like, this is not, a lot of times in business, we look at big projects and we're like, okay, but once we get to the finish line of this project, here's the big payoff. This makes sense. Let's power through. Or, hey, we'll be able to monetize this way. There's none of that with this.
No.
There's no immediate payoff. There's no monetization plan. There's no like, here's the ROI that we can put our finger on. But we know that time and time again, we have felt called to launch this podcast. And it makes absolutely no sense. And to be like super transparent and vulnerable, last week we were faced with, do we keep pushing forward this specific campaign that we're trying to accomplish? And why does this feel so hard? And why does there feel like there's so much friction? And why does something that's typically easy just feel like such an uphill push? And we both had to come to grips with, it's because it's not what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
We had to ask ourselves, what are we supposed to be doing? This.
The podcast.
But this doesn't make any sense. How is this going to drive revenue? How is this going to sustain the business? I have no idea. But I do know enough to know that what our own journey has shown us is that these big leaps of faith are the keys to unlock the door to the next thing.
Yeah.
The next thing that God has for you. And the sooner you can trust in those things and go all out, the sooner you get to whatever that result is.
Yeah. And I think the encouraging thing is the more you do it, the more you do it. And at least the more you recognize it. I would be lying if I said that it becomes a piece of cake, because last week was not a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Last week, there were some tears involved on both parts. And I know I can say that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it just feels so, again, it's not that it's easy. Like, it doesn't always make sense. And it causes frustration, and it caused us to kind of like want to throw a tantrum sometimes, which is great to process and to get out. But the best part is being able to say, I can at least like pinpoint what this is. Like, this feels familiar, even though I don't like it, even though it still makes me feel scared, even though it still doesn't make sense. It feels familiar. And I know what that familiarity brings.
Yep.
We got to go. We got to do it. And we had that moment. We went to some of our best friends here. We said it out loud, kind of confessed it, to say it, to like have accountability with it. And then there was just so much lightness. Like, okay, still doesn't make sense. And so and
even sitting down to record this podcast episode yet again, tech issues galore, all the reasons in the world to run back to safety.
Yeah. to just say like, okay, well, we won't do this until we get it figured out, or until it's perfect, or until your friend's able to come over and help us get it all situated. So if there's been hiccups, or if there's been a delay, or if there's something, that's because we're so stubbornly just like sold out to say, no, this is what we're supposed to be doing. It doesn't matter if it looks perfect. It doesn't matter if we like the way that it feels. It doesn't make sense, but this is exactly where we're at. And I think as I'm saying this, like, I'm glad that I'm able to say this in the mode where we are living it so raw.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it would be as effective or as like powerful, encouraging, motivating as I want it to be if we have already like conquered this. Because it's kind of easy to talk about 2021 when we were feeling the call to move to Florida, and it's easy to talk about 2019 when we pivoted and we can look back. But like, we are actively in this moment at whatever time it is, living in another leap of faith. And so I do feel like it's easier to say, hey, whatever that leap of faith is that you're facing, whatever pull, whatever draw, you just want to like hide behind and run away from and like turn off and like plug your ears, block your eyes. It's like, please don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, because we're not doing that. But also not just us, but there's so much for you. And I just like pointing out that we're in the middle of it too, is you're not alone. Like, you're so not alone if that's what you're feeling. And it's like, gosh, I want to, but I don't know if I should. You should. You 100% should.
Hands down. And I think that's the big question for today. For those of you watching and listening, is like, what is that thing for you? Like, what's the thing that's been burning inside of you? What's the thing you can't ignore? What's the thing you've been excusing away or finding reasons to doubt away? What's the thing that you know, like, this is what I'm feeling called to, but it feels so scary, or I feel unqualified, or I don't have the resources, or I don't know how, or what if it doesn't work, or, you know, the people around me say I'm crazy. What is that thing, and what step can you take towards that thing today? There's something I like to use as an analogy for a lot of our students, and that is, you know, most of us, if you picture an elevator, most of us, like, think about this. Okay, first day you picked up a camera and you went to go shoot. Doesn't matter what it was, family, wedding, your best friend, doesn't matter. Day one, it's like if you're on an elevator, you're starting on the ground floor. And I remember our day one, I was terrified. I mean, I was cleaning the lens till I probably rubbed the coating off the lens, because I was like, this has got to be spotless. We checked batteries 20,000 times, formatted cards 20,000 times, like going through, you had the poses on your Apple Watch. You're like, I got to get this down. We went out to the shoot just thinking these people are going to see through us. They're going to know we don't know what we're doing. What happens if we forget poses? What happens if we forget their names? What happens if this goes too short, goes too late? What happens if all the photos are blurry? Like, all those things. So you feel sick to your stomach and you feel like, oh, I'm gonna puke, and you are tempted to quit, but you power through it anyway. And then what happened? Like, you grow, and eventually you grow to a point where, like, now you're walking out the door and you're going to shoots, and like, hey, I got my gear bag, I'll be fine. Hey, I got the poses down. Yeah, this is going to be easy. You're confident in what you do because you've grown. You went from the, oh my gosh, I'm going to throw up, to, boom, I grew to here and I'm comfortable here. Now, that's awesome. But the problem is, most of us aren't satisfied with staying here. Most of us want to grow to the next level. Most of us are like, this is great, I got here, but I want to go. My dreams are to be up here. And we can't figure out why we feel stuck right here all the time. And what I would encourage you with is, every single time we've wanted to grow to the next level, it's required something none of us want to do. And that's that in that leap of faith that you take, you go back to the ground floor first. You go back to, oh my gosh, I'm going to throw up. Oh my gosh, there's so much at stake. Oh my gosh, what if this doesn't work out? Everybody around me is telling me this is an insane idea. What if I forget this? What if I forget that? What if I break everything? You've got to go back down to the ground floor level. And then as that takes you back up and you grow, now you've grown to an even higher level than where you were before. The beauty is in the leap of faith. The beauty is in the process of going back to, oh my gosh, I'm going to throw up. And the truth is, though, the higher those floors go, the harder it gets to be willing to go back to the bottom floor, because now there's more at risk. There's more at stake. You know, you've built something to this level of success. Now, if I go back down and none of it works, what happens to it? Do I lose it all? It becomes scarier and scarier and more difficult to go back to the ground floor. But it really is the secret ingredient to continued growth and to continued success is trusting those leap of faith moments. When you feel called to something, you know it. And we can do a lot of things to talk ourselves out of it. But, and talking to you that from that standpoint in the most raw and real way possible, there's been a lot of ways I've talked myself out of us doing this. But when you're willing to go back to the ground floor and willing to get vulnerable and willing to lean fully into that thing, even if you don't know what all the steps look like, burning the ships, going all in, knowing that, hey, I might not have it A, B, C, D, E, here's the path I follow, but I'm going to figure this out. Like if you step into it with that kind of tenacity and that kind of drive, the end result is a beautiful outcome.
Yeah. And we truly are truly saying that.
Yeah.
At you or with you, because we're at that bottom floor. I mean, we are bottomed out on like that lower level, and it feels like a farther drop, I think, because we've been a decade into business now. So like going back down, if you think about that visually, it's like, wow, you have to go back down a whole lot further the higher you get. Yeah. But I love that we can genuinely just say, hey, we're saying this and encouraging you with this and really wanting to speak this over you because we're at that baseline bottom floor ourselves. But the cool part is having all the years we've been able to look back on, 10 years of it. We can say that following those leaps, following that dream and that call that you feel is always the right thing to do, because that's what you were created for. It's the next thing, next version of yourself that you were created for. And God always comes through. There's always so much goodness that he has on the other side of it. And it's, it's nerve-wracking. It's a little bit shaky. It's a little bit of the unknown, but we've just learned to live that way. Yeah. And it's fun and exciting, but it can be hard. Yeah. So
I hope that's the big takeaway from you today. I hope it's been fun to hear a little bit of our story and learn a little bit more about us and who we are and what our business journey has looked like. Be interesting to know what surprised you about that story. But also, it would be meaningless for us to just share our story and for you not to have the takeaway of, like we said, like what's that big, scary, faith-required thing that's burning inside of you that you need to step into? And what's one step you can take today? Not this week, not this month, today. What's one step you can take today to lean into that? Maybe it's just saying it out loud to somebody you love and trust. Maybe it's mapping out what you do know. Maybe it's finally grabbing the tool that you need in order to do that thing, or responding to the person that reached out about the thing. Whatever it is, what's the one step you can take towards that vision today? Because one other thing that's true is when you start to take one step and then you take another and then you take another, those things start to compound and things go really quickly in the direction that you're leaning. Because when you can unite that vision behind action, all of it comes into clarity. So we hope this has been helpful for you. We hope that you will take those steps in your own life and business today, not this week, today. And if there's somebody in your life that you're like, man, they could really benefit from hearing a little bit of this story and being encouraged to do the same, we'd love it if you'd share this episode with them. If you can subscribe, leave a review, anything like that, so we can help get our podcast in front of more people that we can help through the stories we'll share here. We'd appreciate it a ton. But until next time, thanks for tuning in.